Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derek Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derek Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Derek Dombeck, and this show is brought to you by No Means Not Yet Negotiations Training, which you can get at thegenerationsofwealth.com/no means not yet. Today I've got Chris Prefontaine. He is literally wicked smart, what he calls himself and his brand. Chris is also the owner of Smart Real Estate Coach. And Chris, man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you being on the show, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I think we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Can you give the audience a little bit of a background on yourself and introduce yourself?
Yep. And we'll probably go quickly because I'm from New England. So if you want to go back to any piece of this, you let me know. But yeah, I've been at real estate now. This September will be 33 years, actually, Derek. It's frightening to think about that, but I've been at it for a while. So I've seen a bunch of different cycles. What I've experimented with over the years since 1991 is we built a bunch of homes. I owned a brokerage for a while. So I had my real estate/broker hat on. I sold at the Coldwell Banker in 2000. And then from 2000 until the crash of 08, I worked my own properties, all kinds of different asset classes, single family, condo conversions, commercial. The crash, though, was the impetus for what we do today. I mean, the crash taught me a lot of very hard lessons financially. When I came out of that, I said, okay, I've got no credit. I've got no money. I'm no longer I'm not bankable, basically. So if I want to do real estate, I had to do it creatively. And that's how this whole thing was born. When I say we, it's a family company. So from 2012 till now, myself, my son-in-law, Zach, my son, Nick, and now a great team all around the country post-COVID, right? Everybody's everywhere. We buy and sell real estate now personally, and we teach it all across North America. And we only buy without using banks. And without using gobs of money. So owner financing, lease purchase, and subject to existing financing. That's it forever. And we've got students doing deals all over the country, and we do deals with them. So it kind of closes that learning gap, if you will. So that was 33 years in like 3 minutes, but I can go back to any piece of that if you want.
Well, I can tell you I think we're brothers from another mother, because I lost everything in 07, 08. Same deal. Wasn't bankable anymore. Learned how to do creative real estate. And I have not used a bank for an investment property since about 2010.
Music to my ears, Derek. Yeah. And you have to come on my show then. I'm going to make a note. It's awesome.
Oh, for sure. I'd love to. So let's dive into some of that. I mean, right after the crash, what were your feelings? Like, I know how I felt, but what was it for you? How did you keep going and not throw in the towel like so many people do?
Yeah, I agree. I still hear it today. They have the head in the sand to this day. I'm not going to say it was easy. It was terrible. So I remember it. You probably do too. Like it was yesterday, February of 08, literally. I know where I was. And then February of 12. That was the window where I was mad at myself, confused, blamed myself. I was in my head. Right? Because this is so much mindset. And then finally I said, okay, if I'm going to get out of this, what's it going to look like? And that's how we design, the 3 paydays and everything we have going on now. So it was mostly mental, to answer your question in a short form. And I don't think a lot of investors don't realize how mental this game is. It's any entrepreneur, but certainly what you and I went through is at least for me, was a lot of mental stress. And coming out of that, I said, well, wait a minute. I want to just go seek out people that are doing what I want to do, like I always did. I just had my head in the sand for 4 years. And that's what pulled me out of it, just getting around people that are bigger thinkers and have already gone through a lot. In fact, I called one gentleman and he literally laughed. And he said, look, here's what I've gone through. And it was mountains worse than mine. And it made me feel a lot better. Not that he felt so good, but he helped me come out of this. There's a bunch of people like that I called and helped me get out of it.
What do you think, Chris, people today lack? Like I see people and we're in similar spaces as far as probably some of our network and things we do around the country. And the mentality is so easy to quit. And What do you think people lack today to have that fortitude to move forward like we did?
It's a good question. I never thought about it formally, but let me say a few things that come to mind, knee jerk. One is, unfortunately, now in the marketplace, you and I both know you've got a lot of great marketers that don't have the experience that you and I have, right? Very important to know this. So they're marketing heavy on social and elsewhere. And the message is sort of, well, there's two problems with that. The message is, one, get rich tomorrow, get rich quick. And it's not. So people have this mismanaged expectation when they try a niche or try a different avenue in real estate. And that sets up, say you and I, if we're trying to teach someone, that sets us up to have not a great experience with them because they think that they have to succeed tomorrow. The second thing is, with respect to those people that are great marketers that might not be in the business for long, you got to be careful because you've got to be around people that have gone through cycles in life and in real estate and in the economic cycle. So those two things right now are lacking. People are running to the shiny object and people have mismanaged expectations. And this is what drives a lot of what we do, because I call it closing the gap, right? That learning curve, the time between when someone takes a course or a seminar or whatever and does a deal. And sometimes it never happens because of those mismanaged expectations or because of some aggressive marketing. And that's what we're out to sort of fix, create a little bit of a revolution, if you will.
100%. I get the same thing from my local community, and I'm in Wisconsin, so I have to work a much wider area just from a population standpoint, and I speak and teach all around the state and as well as the country, and people are always in awe of the creative deal structures, but I tell them it has nothing to do with actually structuring creative deals. It has everything to do with solving that person's problem that you're
100%.
trying to buy from. And I feel like so many people are short-sighted to where they've got one tool in their toolbox. It's a big damn hammer, and I can buy all cash for 65 or 70 cents on a dollar minus repairs, and that's it. They're only looking at what's in it for them instead of what's in it for everybody else. How do you approach your real estate deals, your leads? What does that look like?
100%. I'm in sync with you again on this, 100+%, because if we would all go out, and this is what we do, which we teach our associates, if we would all go out literally each day and just say, who can I help? Your attitude's different on the phone. It comes across to the seller, and you truly are looking to either solve a problem, and that's the case of someone financially, or you're looking to help them accomplish a goal the market's not letting them accomplish, i.e. we talk to a lot of free and clear people. They're not hurting financially, they have no mortgage, but the market's not giving them maybe top dollar. And we can do it as long as we have time, right? So either help them accomplish a goal like that or solve a problem. If you go at it every day like that, there's endless deals, prosperity mindset. I just said to my wife yesterday, Derek, I said, geez, I finally got caught up. I did a bunch of my own calls because I love being in the trenches still, aside from coaching people. And I said, every conversation was pleasant. That's what I told her last night, because my attitude is, how can I help you? And if I can, great. And if I can't, great. And so many people go, well, how do you convince the seller to do owner financing with principal only payments? Or how do you convince someone to you don't convince anyone of anything, right? To your point, you solve problems.
Yeah, it's like talking to myself right now. I love this. Honestly, when I get on the phone with somebody and I'm focusing 100% on them, I'm doing them a disservice if I'm not asking them the hard questions.
Yeah.
Because I can't help them if I don't ask the hard question. And when I get people that call me for advice and they'll say, well, I think I can buy this property sub 2, or I think the seller will carry financing. Okay, great. What do they own a property? I don't know. How long will they take payments? I don't know. I mean, they just don't ask the questions. And so you don't market for or find creative deals. You build creative deals out of conversations. And that's my belief.
I 100% agree.
So how do people start that transition into figuring out creative deals and terms deals? Where do you lead them down what path?
As far as the initial sort of foray into or building the foundation for a new person, you think? Okay, so all of our students, whether they stick around and do deals with us or whether they go off on their own, all go through our basic platform. And I'm going to kind of marry this to the earlier answer I gave you earlier when I said people just market stuff. I've been told by even competitors, they say, all right, Chris, well, you have this course, we call it QLS, but you have this course and you should cut all that up and sell all these different programs, and don't give them all. We have like 12 mods and 60 different audios and videos and all kinds of things in there. And that sort of it's not a course. It's an online resource center, really, because you can go through it over and over and over again, or you can go back to certain modules like, oh, I got to brush up on sub 2, or I have to brush up on owner financing. So they all have to go through that basic course. So we're talking the same language, the same vernacular, if you will. So that's a long answer to say they have to go through that curriculum. And then we're talking the same thing. Because like we trademarked the 3 paydays. If someone comes in and didn't take the course, they think I was talking a different language, right? So I think that nailed your question about tracking with you.
Yeah, it does. So what is 3 paydays? Explain that.
Yeah. So when I came out of the crash, there was one thing that I was frustrated with when I thought back to, okay, what am I going to do and what type and what niche? And that was getting paid once. It was frustrating because every January when I was building homes, say, I go, oh man, I got to build this many more homes. Or when I was a realtor, I did 100 homes a year. Oh, I got to do that again in January. Like it's all hustle and it's all transactional. And I'm not downplaying it. Real estate's been great to me, but you can muscle your way to $1 million in income by muscling your way. You can work harder, you can stay up late, you can do more calls. The challenge is I didn't want that transactional income anymore. That was one of the rules that I said, okay, I'm going to fix this. So the 3 paydays, we exit a lot of our properties, most of them, at least at the beginning, with a rent-to-own program that is super successful and gets most people to the finish line, unlike most. And the 3 paydays are money up front, down payment. They're a true buyer. That's your deposit. Payday 2, every time you launch a deal, you launch a new series of income monthly. So now you can pay overhead. And there's a spread there between what you're paying on the property and what they're paying you. And then payday 3 is terrific because when you cash out of these deals, you're accumulating any price markup, sure, but you're also accumulating all the principal pay down throughout the term of the deal. So those are the 3 paydays. And if you and I were going to open a restaurant tomorrow and someone said, hey, I could teach you how to do now money, over time, monthly money, and long-term money, we'd be like, yeah, it's a great model for any business. So that's what we've done for the real estate deals.
Okay. Oh, it makes sense. I thought you were going to go a little different direction, and I call it triple dipping. And so what we've done in the past is I might put a property under contract, wholesale it to a rehabber, and also give them the funding to buy it from me and rehab it. And then in some cases, I partner with them and joint venture on the rehab. So I get paid on the wholesale, get paid on the loan, get paid on the end sale.
Love it.
So yeah, no, that's awesome. So you do work with your clients or your students and do deals, and you're doing that all across the country. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So we've got 5 coaches now. It used to be me, and then me and that's my son and son-in-law, but now we've got 5 certified coaches. They have to have gone through our program. So we have different levels in our associate levels, and they have to have gone through the highest level, which means they worked with me at some point. And then they have to complete 5 creative real estate deals. Then they can go through the certification to become a coach. So I still work with the higher end, Derek, only because I love doing deals. It's kind of like why I started the company. And then my son-in-law likes scaling, doing other things. So he's doing that. And I stay in the trenches with the associates, as do the coaches. And then we have a community director, Kelsey, who's just simply amazing. She actually has a doctorate in human psychology and loves coaching. So she kind of runs all of that, the liaison between the community and the coaches. So those are the 2 ways we handle it. And because there's a lot of deals. I mean, some months, I think last month was actually close to a record, close to how it was when COVID first hit. I think we brought on like 20 properties or something like that in the community. It's a lot of properties under agreement. So yeah, we've got some cool systems built in to manage that and to train people through the process.
Is every agreement with each student kind of individualized based on the deal, or is it kind of a set parameter? This is the split across the board.
Good question. So there's 3 or 4 different programs, levels I'll call them, not programs. And depending on what level they're in, there'll be a different split associated with all of their deals. So they'll decide that up front. Everybody knows what's going on. And then we get in the trenches and do deals with them. So just as an example to let the audience know what I'm talking about when I say in the trenches, yesterday we do calls every week, private calls with each group, and we do big calls with everybody. But yesterday we were on a call and there was some questions, and I was running the call, and it was with my higher level people. And one guy said, hey, I got this woman who just texted me, do you mind giving her a call right now? So live on the call, we called the seller and structured the whole deal. Today we sent an email out to her, and he'll get the appointment and probably get the deal. That's so important because the whole group got to see that and feel that. Even if they were new, they're like, oh, what did he say? How did he say it? Why did he say that? To your earlier point, like those hard questions, they hear that over and over again live because we're doing it with them. That's a big difference from, here you go, here's a nice little course, good luck trying to make that work now in the real world. It's not so fluffy when you get out there, right, by yourself.
Yeah, that's for sure. So when you're doing these deals with your students, you're not putting in any of your own money. You're not signing on any loans. You're just coming in as a consultant.
Correct. And they're not, with a few exceptions either, Derek, because whether it's, well, okay, so with a lease purchase, they're putting down $10 on a deposit. That's easy. But if they're buying it on a financing with no money down, that we don't expect the seller to have to come out of pocket. So they usually come up with a little money for transfer tax, right? And then sub two obviously carry some closing costs as well, because typically they need fixing tomorrow. They don't have any money, but generally you're talking little to no money and never ever signing personally. So I'll give you an example again for the listener. Going into COVID, we had peak amount of properties. Coincidentally, our family team, not even the community, we had 75 or 76, just our family team with all rental home buyers in them. Not one single loan were we on personally ever, nor will we ever be. Now compare that to the '08 crash where I had 22 or 23 and every one of them I was on. So the bank came, knocking. It's just a different, you can't negotiate when you're on personal guarantee. Can you negotiate when there's no personal guarantee and you're in a creative real estate deal? You sure can and should, because you have all the leverage. So big difference.
100%. And by the way, I've not personally guaranteed any of my deals through, since 2007.
Awesome.
For the same reason. And that doesn't mean, and I think this is good for us to clarify, that doesn't mean that I'm not responsible and that I'm just going to walk away if things go bad. It just means that there is a better way and other ways to structure these deals where it's based on the deal. And if the deal goes bad, yes, you will lose that property potentially, or have to fire sale it or whatever. But personal guarantees, I ran a lending company with a business partner for 10 years. So we started a hard money lending company primarily because we were raising private capital and we had more capital available than we had deals.
Yeah.
So we started an arbitrage business, which grew far beyond what we ever imagined it would. And of course we had everybody sign personally, but we actually structured it different. And I'm not giving anybody legal advice. Instead of them signing a personal guarantee, they actually signed as a co-signer personally. And at least where I live, according to our foreclosure attorney, if somebody signs a personal guarantee, they and the property takes a loss, it has to take a loss before you can go after them personally. So if they did the loan in an LLC, the LLC is insolvent, and there's a $50,000 loss, then they come after you personally for the $50,000. When somebody signed as a co-signer, we can put judgments against them simultaneously. So that is not something that is often talked about. And but it's also another point as to why you may not want to sign personally, or at least know what you're signing.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It doesn't mean you're not responsible. And I'll give you a quick example because these always resonate with people. They're real. During COVID, out of those 75 or 6 properties, we had 4 headaches. One was on a good-sized property where they were a professional. They knew what they were doing. Professional meaning they knew what they were doing to avoid rent with the federal changes and everything. Okay, so we put the wrong buyer in, our fault. But I called the owner and said, look, I was responsible. We kept making the payments. I think it went on like 9 months because of what you said, right? You have to do that. We have an A+ with the BBB. You can't mess with that stuff. That's your integrity. But the difference is because I wasn't signed person, I called up Bob, the owner, it was his name. And I said, hey, we need another 6 months. And he said, geez, I'm not sure if I can extend it. I said, well, look, here's what we're doing. I'm paying you every month, but here's what's happening in the background. And I can give you the house back if you want. He said, no. I'll give you the extension. Different conversation than, hey, I got you. You're on it personally, right? Just a different negotiation. That's all it is. And he was very happy. That house has been cashed out. But this is what happens with responsibility. You got to do what you say you're going to do.
And I would add to that dealing with people instead of institutions is a completely different game and much more reasonable and flexible in most cases.
Well, 5 or 10 minutes and a piece of paper versus hours and red tape.
Yeah, absolutely. And your firstborn child and a blood.
Yeah.
And everything else. So another question that comes to mind is often people ask me, how do you have time to do all this? I have a full-time job. Do people have to be full-time in the business to start doing terms deals?
Okay, couple answers. I actually prefer that they have something going on before they see us. And if they don't, and they're in dire straits because they got laid off or something, fine. We can structure a plan. But 99% of the people that come to us have a JOB. They are solid. They just want a plan to get out of that, what I call escaping the W-2. So where do we work in time? I've had people that have 15-hour days. I've had a guy recently that left his job in last May that worked 30 years for the government with 115 employees. He found time because we said, all right, Rick, here's the plan over the next 24 months. He took a little less, but here's your plan over the next 24 months. Here's the schedule. here's where you'll end up after that. In other words, it's very predictable, right, Derek? Versus, well, I'm going to try this. No. It was all hands on deck, coaches, him, everyone, to get him out of his job. They can do it if they're willing to set up a nice plan to attack it and willing to burn the candle on both ends until such time they're full time, or stay with your job. If our deals, let me say this, our deals range from like all three paydays, 45 grand to 350 was a new record recently, all three paydays. Okay. So some people, I have an attorney who goes, hey, Chris, if I do one a year or two a year, he runs a law firm. He's just tinkering with this. So he'll never leave the law firm, in my opinion. It's not his goal, but he'll do a deal or two or three a year because they're super profitable. So everybody has different goals, but if they want to get out of the JOB, we can help them.
Yeah, and I guess let's go to that. When should they get out of the JOB? Because I will admit to you that in 2007, I mean, I still had a job. Fortunately, we lost everything. And it took me quite a few years to get back to the point where I felt like I could walk away from the job and not end up jeopardizing my family. Now, hindsight, I wish I would have left my job sooner, but when do you think, in your opinion, and what needs to be in place before somebody should leave their job?
Yeah, if they have the choice, right? They'll get let go. So, and I have a comment on that too, but let's, everybody has a different palette, right? So I'll use first names only. So Mike in California comes to me, and I think it was, February 17th. We talked on the phone. He joined one of the levels, and I flew out to see him, which we do on occasion. And he said, Chris, I want to be done in 24 months. I said, I think you can do it a lot quicker, Mike. Well, here's why I want to do it in 24 months. I want this much in the bank. I want to see 3 paydays on my schedule, at least, projected out 2 or 3 years of X amount of dollars. Like everybody has, he's very conservative. Everybody has their thing. I had another guy that after 9 months, Brian in Chicago, said, I'm done. I got a 401k. I talked to my CPA and your CPA. I have a plan. I'm leaving my job. So he was aggressive enough to say, I can lean on my 401k funds for now, and then I know how fast I can ramp this up. Those are 2 different extremes. They're 2 different personalities. So everyone's going to have a different answer to that. But I would say to those that have a JOB now, please understand one thing, and I'm super adamant about this. The risk is not starting your own business in real estate. The risk is your job. There's no question about it. The risk is your job, especially when the economy is doing what it does, and it's going to keep doing. It's going to be unpredictable, right? That's your risk. So how about plan now to parlay a bunch of deals? You work with Derek or you work with me, and you parlay a bunch of these deals, and then you're comfortable. I have a woman right now, Derek, who is begging her boss. She's in Maine, Judy. She is literally saying, can you put me in the next layoff package? She wants to leave and be full-time because she's been at it for like a year and a half. She's like, I got to get out of there. So you do that. So you're in a position of control of your own finances, and you can literally leave or ask to be let go because you have enough deals built up.
Well, and a challenge that most people have is they use bank financing for everything. And as soon as they quit the W-2, the bank shuts them off.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of learning how to do terms deals. We don't need the bank. I think using banks is absolutely lazy. I really do. And it's not that you shouldn't do it, but to me, that's about the third option, not the first option. So, and it's great if you have that option. I mean, you don't want to have to work with no credit, no money, if possible. But I still say publicly on this show and many other people's shows, losing everything in 2007 was the best thing that ever happened to us.
Same with me. Yeah, same with me.
To either quit or become what we are today.
No question. The time before that was a bit of a push that I learned from is in 91. What got me full-time in real estate was I grew up in a family company, welding company, not a welding supply company, not a real estate company. But in 91, my father sold, and the new company was supposed to have me as general manager, and they fired me after about, I think it was a month. They let me go. So I had kids 1 and 2 years old. They basically said, here's your car, it was a Nissan, and here's a month's salary for severance. Bye-bye. So that was it. Talk about an excitement and a panic at the same time, but it was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, definitely. What do you feel like is the biggest challenge in today's market, and what are you most excited about in today's market?
The biggest challenge, what I alluded to, you're talking about the actual market. Sorry. Biggest challenge, frankly, is if you're not equipped to bop and weave with the market, and unfortunately the media is screaming they're always incorrect, but they're screaming, it's going to crash, it's going to boom, whatever. They're never correct. So if you only know one thing, I think you alluded to it earlier, Derek, if you only know one thing, you're going to feel stuck, and rightfully so. When you learn creative, like Derek and I have spent the time to do, you will be excited to pivot as the market pivots, because whenever there's uncertainty, the sellers and buyers need a guide. You're it. If you know creative, you're it. And so you should get excited every time, literally every time there's an election, every time interest rates change, anytime there's anything going on that confuses people, you can help. And that's what you should be super excited about. I will tell you, in 33 years, I have not seen the demand and the awareness the way it is now for creative real estate. I've been screaming about it for a while. You've been screaming about it for a while. Now everybody's going, oh, that's where to be now. So communities of wholesalers and communities of rehabbers are calling us going, hey, can you teach our community what you guys do? Well, it's been around since the 1600s. Where you been? It's like, but I'm excited for it now.
Well, I've been saying for several years, because many of us were expecting the markets to shift sooner than they did. But I was looking forward to the increase in interest rates a long time. And
Yeah.
I don't want them to go back down. I absolutely don't. I don't want to see people get harmed or get hurt, but a thinning of the herd, a thinning of the pretenders, both as real estate investors, wholesalers, flippers, realtors, fill in the blank. They come and go. And I believe it was about 2 years ago, for the first time in history, there was more licensed real estate agents in the country than there was listed properties. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah. You know what the average is? I don't know if this changed, Derek, but when I used to be more active in that space, the average, because there's a lot of part-timers, but the average home sold per registered realtor was like 1.9 or something like that a year. I don't know how you survive.
Yeah, I think the average wage for a realtor was $5,000 a year. It wasn't much.
It's crazy.
It's the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
And 20% are doing the majority of the business, of course. So no, again, personally, I love the shift in markets. We've always been able to do creative deal structuring throughout any market, but the last 6 months, people are much more open to those discussions much earlier in our discussions. And I would say 50 to 65% of our leads, we're talking terms.
Yeah.
And what's one of your favorite deals you've ever done and on a term side?
It was a deal we just did, and we closed it in February of 24. This is being listened to a lot later. In favor for a lot of reasons. It was a headache, but I like working through, right? You and I both like the kind of like the bop and weed. That's why we're here still. They always change. So we had a student that one of our values is completing all transactions with the highest integrity. That's one of our values as a community. And I heard of a student who had left the community. He botched up one of his deals. The seller was going to really, really get screwed, frankly. And there was an investor on the deal that I knew that was going to get screwed. So long story short, we stepped in. We cured everything that he had botched. We had to wait it out and get a squad out of the house. This is $1 million home. This whole process took about 10 months. That was painful, but that's the one that set a new record for the three paydays. I said the 350 some odd thousand. I think it was like the payday 3 alone was like 329. So it was probably higher than that, but it was cool for a lot of reasons. There was liens, there was a squatter, there were violations of HOA, there was a student we had to save face for him. It felt good and it was super profitable.
Do you guys ever do you use options other than lease options to tenant buyers?
The tenant buyers, we typically do one of two things, and you can tell me this answers it. We always start with a rent to own, but if we have no clock ticking on our term with the seller, so i.e. long-term owner financing or sub 2 with no clock ticking expiration wise, we will say to them after we accept them, after they think they still have to go through the credit and financing process in a year or two, we say, look, good news, we can owner finance you if you don't miss a payment for the next 18 or 24 months. And when you get your deposit up to 20 or 25%, we can then owner finance you. Those are the only two ways we exit with buyers. So I don't know if that's what you meant with options, but that's all we do with buyers typically.
More so on the buying side.
Oh, on the buy side?
Buying a property, do you ever use options?
Just on the lease option. We don't typically. There'll be a one-off, Derek, once in a while. Like I had a student recently say, "What should I do with this?" I said, "Just put an option on it for 90 days." But it's not typical. It's an anomaly.
Okay. I really enjoy options, and I think you and I can have a fantastic conversation about that.
I'm taking notes as you go on things that I need to ask you on my show, so I can't wait. This has to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have one question that I ask almost every one of my guests. What should I have asked you that I have not?
Your questions are awesome because they're different. I love it. The only thing I would share that either I didn't think of it or you didn't ask it is simply, if like for the listener, we talked earlier about all this marketing going on and the expectations, right? So I have a simple 3-step thing I tell everyone. If you do these, you'll have success in real estate. You frankly have it in any business. Step 1, decide what niche, right? Like you and I love creative, it's obvious, but I'm not so naive to think that's it. We're the only ones in town. Go, if you like wholesaling and you want that transactional, whatever it is for you, pick one. Secondly, this is super important. Pick someone like Derek and myself. There's others too. Well, again, I'm not so naive to think it's just us who have been in the niche you want, you can relate to, but I also mean from a value standpoint, not just a business standpoint, because there are plenty of people, Derek, you and I know, that had success in real estate or success in business, but they wreck relationships because of it, wife, kids, whatever, right? I know too many of them. So I mean, from that standpoint too, like you like everything about that person or community. And then third, once you do that, that's in place, put the blinders on for 3 to 7 years. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to take you 3 to 7 years to do a deal. What it means is if you say to myself or Derek, hey guys, I'm in this. I'm not trying it, because you don't try real estate. I'm in this for 3 to 7 years. You won't, when a speed bump comes, quit. You'll say, hey, I got a speed bump. How do I fix it? Right? So pick a niche, pick someone or a community in that niche. It's where you want to be, that you can relate to, that you can link up values with. And third, put the blinders on for 3 to 7 years. I used to say 3, by the way, Derek, to explain that quickly. I had Brian Tracy on my podcast when he was 80 something during COVID. And every guest usually agrees with me. Yeah, 3 years. He said, nope, that's not long enough. He said, I've been broke, I've been successful. You need 7 years, because you're going to suck for 2 or 3 years. Then you're going to be adequate. And then you're going to be hitting your stride after the last 2 years. I went, oh, that's important. So 3 to 7, I say now.
Oh, that's awesome advice. I love it. You got a book that you put out too, right? That you were, and also a masterclass. Touch on that a little bit, which, by the way,
Sure.
Will be available at thegenerationsofwealth.com/wicked smart. But talk about that a little bit, if you would, Chris.
Sure. Thank you. Real Estate on Your Terms was written in 2017. And then coincidental to COVID, we were just in a rewrite in 2020 and COVID hit. So it actually allowed us to update it even more so, like relative to some virtual things like that. So it's super updated. Real Estate on Your Terms brings you through like A through Z, like literally, what do we do to generate leads? Where does that go? How do we exit? And then there's some students in there, just so you don't think or catch yourself thinking, well, can I do it, or can my market be okay for that? You know, you have a nice background in there. And then and we'll send the actual hard copy book. And there's no shipping. And then the master's class is just me doing a workshop. It's fairly short. It's under an hour, and you're not pressured by someone being on there with you. You literally can schedule it at your own time. And Derek will give you that link on his website there. And then that'll spark, hey, you'll do 1 or 2 things. It's not going to teach you to get rich quick tomorrow. It's going to open your eyes to a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And then you decide. And if you decide you want to look further, we'll probably talk soon.
Perfect. And yeah, and again, that's thegenerationsofwealth.com/wicked smart. And Chris, man, I know you and I could probably talk for several more hours.
I love it.
Which we may do after this call, or I'm sorry, after we get done recording. But I really appreciate you coming on. You did say something that touched my heart. You know, Generations of Wealth, our motto is live your vision, love your life. And part of that is living your personal life first, building a business that supports it, so that you're not destroying relationships and your marriages and your kids and all that stuff. So I love that you touched on that, and you didn't even necessarily know that was what we're all about. So again, appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge, and man, I look forward to spending more time with you for sure.
Same here. Thanks, Derek. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap this up. Join us on the next episode of the Generations of Wealth podcast. And until then, live your vision, love your life. And again, this show is brought to you by thegenerationsofwealth.com/no means not yet, my negotiations training. If you want to learn how to get out there and get people to open up to you so that you can do terms deals, go check that out. Talk to you guys all later.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth-building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.